listen carefully to what I'm going to say.
Right.
If, let's say I'm running an illegal operation, and I enter into a contract with George Nuri, you are not bound by that contract under constitutional law because the operation that you were contracting with is illegal a priori. There's no binding legal authority to that contract. In the same way, the databases, the witnesses, the documents pertaining to this subject, as far as I'm concerned, and as far as the head of intelligence for the Joint Chiefs of Staff is concerned, because he told me this personally at his office at the Pentagon, these projects are being run by a rogue element that are extra-constitutional, transnational, illegal. I know for a fact they have lied to the U.S. president. I know for a fact that the CIA director I briefed was lied to. I know for a fact that the Secretary of Defense that we worked with was lied to, etc. A priori, they cannot claim the rule of law to protect themselves. And in my opinion, they don't have a leg to stand on in prosecuting Gary McKinnon for the acquisition of the information. Now, what he did to the computers and hacking, I can't comment on.
Right.
But I'm talking about the information itself. And by the way, this was the constitutional legal argument we used when we came forward with all these top-secret military witnesses. We said, look, it doesn't matter if they signed a legal agreement or a security oath or had a top-secret clearance or a Umbra or past Q38 levels, which, by the way, the stuff we're dealing with is about 38 levels past Q clearance, which is nuclear launch code level. And, you know, I said that these people cannot be held to the secrecy since the group that is running these projects is a criminal enterprise. It's the largest RICO, or racketeering influence corrupt organization, on the planet. Therefore, they can't turn around and use the courts and the law to enforce the secrecy.
Right.
And this is, when I said this to an admiral who is the head of intelligence for the Joint Chiefs of Staff, he looked at me and says, you are absolutely right. And let me tell you a little story. It's in this book, Hidden Truth, Forbidden Knowledge. I gave this man a document that I got through contacts. It was a secret document. And it had the code numbers and code names of some of the projects as of the 90s that were dealing with the ET issue out of the Nellis facility. And he looked into it and found that one of those compartmented operations was in the Pentagon. And he called them up. This is the head of intelligence for the Joint Chiefs of Staff.
I love this.
I'm at this meeting. And this man calls them up and he says, I'm Admiral so-and-so. I want to be read into, which is the lingo they use, I want to be read into this project. And they say to him, sir, we cannot read you into this project, and you do not have a need to know. And he said, damn it, if I don't have a need to know, who does? I'm the head of intelligence for the Joint Chiefs of Staff. And they said, sir, we will not read you into this project. Click, and they killed the line.
Oh, my.
Now, this is a true story. By the time I got to this meeting with this admiral, he was 4+ hopping mad. And not at me, but when I described to him the big picture of what was going on with this, and what the technologies were, and what was being stolen from humanity, and that we were destroying our biosphere and impoverishing 80% of the world's population and killing our young men in the Middle East because we're trying to protect our national security interests because of oil, for crying out loud, which we don't need, he looked at me and he said, Dr. Greer, you can take all these witnesses and all these documents, I don't care if they're declassified or not, and take them to the media and let anyone who will listen hear the truth. And he said that to me, and I have witnesses to him saying that. So when people say, gee, how did you end up actually, opening the door to all this stuff a few years ago with the Disclosure Project? I said, well, I was encouraged to do so by none less than the head of intelligence for the Joint Staff. I just tell people, don't be deceived. Don't be stampeded like a bunch of cows into this corral of fear. Look to a good future, and I think that if we join together, we can create a good future together, but it's going to take a lot of hard work, and we're going to have to wake up. Number two, the day that 9/11 happened, my first call was to my wife. My second call was to get my daughter out of D.C. because she's an architect there. My third call was to my military advisor, and I said, this is the signal we were looking for because we knew from multiple sources, including Werner von Braun, that after the Cold War they would roll out global terrorism and that was the penultimate stage right before they try to hoax a threat from outer space to seize global domination around a military junta that would force the world into this fear and reaction to fear. And I said, we have got to start moving forward with the fundamental building blocks of a new civilization on this planet, which includes not only the information about the technologies, but the actual technological devices themselves. themselves. And all of us, no one survives this life. Everyone eventually falls under this canopy of dust and moves on to another plane. But what I think is important is what you try to do while you're here. And so I want to stay focused on the good future we can create.
If you guys, have contact with these aliens and you've been working with them, is it possible that you could get them to single out these bad guys and beam them up or get rid of them or something?
It's a very tempting idea. No, it's actually a good question. I think that one of the things I caution against is, and people think I'm joking when I use this term, is cosmic codependency, where we sort of view these visitors from other civilizations as somehow either our nemesis or our saviors. And I think they're neither. And I think that the responsibility for fixing the mess we've created rests squarely on the shoulders of us humans. Now, it doesn't mean that they're not there to understand and perhaps to assist behind the scenes some, or perhaps to make preparations for a time when humans quit acting like a bunch of squabbling madmen and begin to live in a civilized fashion. But I don't believe that they're going to, take care of these fundamental problems themselves. I think that if we are ever going to evolve as a civilization, these are hard lessons we have to learn ourselves. And I liken it to the experience of growing up. That humanity is at the late adolescent phase of our development. And if we're going to enter into the maturity of adulthood, the hallmark of which is a peaceful civilization on this planet that's open and free, I think that we have to achieve that primarily on our own. I'm not saying that there's no points of assistance. I think there's assistance from various realms and dimensions and aspects. But ultimately, it has to come through us. Otherwise, we don't really own it. We haven't mastered it. Okay. And it'll be a temporary fix.
Okay.
It's a shame that it hasn't come out to benefit humanity. It would take an act of God to finally get this out to benefit the world. And what I say to people is that, well, that may be true, but perhaps God works through us, and if we, keep moving forward, we can get this out, and eventually it'll happen. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, how much damage and suffering to humanity and the Earth and the biosphere has to happen before we quit lying to each other about the fact that the fabric of space and time all around us is filled with so much energy that some people have estimated that every cubic centimeter of space in the room that you're sitting in has enough energy to run the Earth for a day. And it's absurd for us to be fighting, oil war number 10 or, destroying the biosphere when, as this gentleman said, oil is only needed to lubricate the bearings and for plastics and synthetics. It is not needed as an energy source. People who think that we actually have a free press when it comes to the big mainstream media, CNN, Time, Newsweek, are very, very naive. If you go to disclosureproject.org, I have an article up there about the media, and a man sent to me a top-secret document that had been declassified, and I understand might have been reclassified, but on page 6 of that document, I'm paraphrasing, but basically what it says is that this is a CIA document from 1991, not that long ago, and it says, we have cultivated contacts at all the world's media, wire services, news magazines, etc., to change, alter, stop, kill stories as needed. And this is done routinely, and the American public think that, the fourth estate is this big check and balance on this kind of runaway, transnational secret effort, and it isn't. It's part of the problem. And I think that one of the things we're going to have to eventually do, I've said for years, I would love to start the Disclosure Network or Disclosure Network News, call it what you will, and basically on radio and satellite television, just have a constant stream of these insiders telling the truth to the world's public. We need to do something like that. And look, let the past be the past, but let's start a new beginning.